I always say to people, let's say I took away Google and I took away PM, director of product, senior PM. Who are you? If you took away those things, you keep chipping away at them, right? What's the essence? What's left? And so for me, I'm a storyteller. That's the thing I want to be known for. That's who I am. I'm a storyteller. I'm a lover of beautiful things in the world. Like I collect beautiful things. I collect flyers. I collect whatever. That's who I am. That's what I want you to remember of me. Many people might add other things like, oh, Ebi knows how to do vision. So Ebi, is a tennis player, or Ebi, like whatever, like, quick learner. But what is that? And it's so important that you have a complete story, because the company hired you for that complete story. You create a different relationship to the company where you're not expecting all of your fulfillment to come from a company. And that's not fair on any company, because the company is not your whole life. And so when you have a full life, and that life is beyond just the thing you do, the job title, it's actually the thing, the impact you leave on the world is really the thing, as well as how you show up in the world, then I actually think you bring a lot more energy into the work you're doing, a lot more passion, a lot more meaning, a lot more intent, right? Because there's like balance.
Cool. Welcome, everyone. My guest today is Ebi. Ebi is the director of product for YouTube Studio, a product that I and millions of YouTube creators use every day. And really excited to talk to Ebi about crafting YouTube Studio vision, making the right product trade-offs for YouTube Studio, and also why you should define your career by your purpose instead of by your job title. So welcome, Ebi.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So Ebi, I'm like a aspiring YouTube creator. I use Studio every day. And, it does like so many things, right? From like video management to analytics to your community. Like, if you had to make an elevator pitch for your vision for Studio, what would it be?
It's your creative partner. And it lets you tell the story you want to tell, how you want to tell it, and helps you foster that connection with your community.
That's amazing. Yes. The creative partner part is like very
creative partner. And we spent a lot of time on that, because we're like, it's not quite a co-pilot. It's not like an assistant, because, we're Google. Assistant is like the buzzword. It's like when you're in a room with someone who's a partner, one is they meet you where you are. So when you start a company, the two founders in a bedroom, you're in the same place. You have empathy for each other. There's a hustle. There is no who does what. You're just sort of going, and you can bounce off each other, right? Especially in the creative space. There's always this need to kind of like bounce ideas off someone else who's on the same wavelength. So we didn't want it to be like, it's not an oracle. We don't know the answer. Every creator is unique and different, even though people think we do. I always say, if I could give you the formula, I would have 1 million subs. I don't. I have like 120.
Yeah. You got to experience it paying yourself to grow the channel,
Exactly. So, there is something magical about being a creator. And I think the goal is, how can we be that creative partner where it's like, we're right there with you.
And how did you kind of work with a team to come over with this? Like, what was the process to come with this creative partner vision?
So I wish I could say it was one process. It was like magical, but I'll start by saying this, and I'll go sort of take a couple of steps back. So when I joined the team in April 2022, one of the things that I've always said, and I read this book a long time ago called The First 90 Days, and it's really shaped how I onboard into any role. Because when things have gone wrong, it's usually because something happened upstream, right? Like the real issue is upstream of you. So I came in and I have this framework I call the 3 C's, which is basically I have a lot of conversations with everyone, like my VP's peers, my VP's buddies that he respects, my peers, my team, my eng partners, direct reports, my design partners, direct reports, my UXR partners, direct reports. So overall, I end up speaking to like 40 people and a few sort of key partners as well, marketing, P Council, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then after I go through conversations, I ask everyone the exact same 5 questions, because what I'm looking for are converging and diverging themes. Like, what does everyone say? What are the outlier things? And then I go into what I call comprehension, where I try to make sense of what I've heard. So I literally have a deck where I say, hey, these are not, there's a disclaimer at the opening. It's like, these are not my thoughts. These are the thoughts of the team. But my last question is, if you were me and you were coming into this role with the afro and everything, what are the 3 things you would do in the next 90 days? And I literally tally them. And what you end up having is a stacked rank P0 list, basically. Because people are literally telling you, if I were you, this is the thing you should focus on. So you also start to see what people care about. And, the top 6 things, I essentially, and then I go back to my final C, which is conviction. So it's conversations that lead to comprehension, which leads to conviction. And so I have the 6 things, and from the conversations, one of the things that keeps coming up is, what is studio? Like, who are we, a platform for other teams within YouTube to build into? Or are we a product? Very important question. Who's the customer? Is the customer the internal YouTube PM or product team? Or is the customer the creator? Right? So I was like, these are very existential questions. Like, I don't know how, you can be successful if we're like questioning what our product is and who our customer is, right? And so that came up again and again. And the other thing that came up was, what's our vision and where are we going? So I want to, I say that because it's important. I don't want people to believe that, you just come in, you're a leader, and you're just going to come up with a vision. Like, that's not what happened. Yeah. It came up, and then that led into, okay, guys, this is the readout from what everyone is saying across levels, across functions. Do you agree? And how might we solve this? So of course, that then creates the impetus to justify locking a bunch of people in a room for 4 days. I mean, they did go out to sleep and things. We literally locked ourselves together for 4 days. It was Monday to Thursday. And the goal was really, we're going to come out with an answer to, what are we? What is the product? What are our principles? What's the vision? And what's the strategy? Those are literally like the 4 big things we wanted to come out with. And so going in, because I'd already had these conversations, you start getting sprinkles of where to look for the insights. But essentially we had a full day of just inviting teams in, 30 minutes. So we had 8 hours plus breaks, whatever, but we had teams coming in for 30 minutes, and they came in and they got a slide that was titled 10 Things You Should Know. Because if you say, hey, come and do a deep dive of your products, I feel like it becomes this, my VP, sometimes there's a dog and pony show, but because it becomes this kind of like, let's show you how great we are and all the stuff we ship.
Yeah.
That's great. I mean, that's why you're here. I hope you're shipping stuff. The real crux of it was, tell me what's painful. Tell me the things that keep you up at night. And by forcing 10, people had to stack rank. So these are the 10 things, whether you're marketing or you're another product team or our direct product teams, these are the 10 things that you think are, extremely important. And some were qualitative, some were quantitative. But when we got all of those, and one of the sessions was the UXR lead, my UXR partner, had also gone and pulled 10 things you should know from all of the UXR corpus. And that one day of insights basically gave us ground truth where 3 years down the line, our strategy still holds, right? It's like, it's still the strategy of today, which to me, I'm like, okay, that it worked, right? And that's not, I don't think you'll ever get to 100% fidelity, not even 90. You're looking for 80% fidelity so that you're like, okay, I have conviction that's a problem that we want to actually solve. And then you can go obviously do the work, the usual product work to, my colleague always says, understand work to go deeper on a problem. So that was day one. And I can't, say this enough. If you get that day wrong, then the foundation, everything else is incorrect. The vision is based.
This episode is brought to you by Vanta. Whether you're a startup founder navigating your first audit or a security professional scaling your GRC program, security has never been more critical or more complex. That's where Vanta comes in. Businesses use Vanta to establish trust by automating compliance needs across over 35 frameworks like SOC 2 and the ISO 27001. Vanta can help you start or scale your security program by connecting you with auditors to conduct your audit and set up your program fast. Plus, with automation and AI throughout the platform, Vanta gives you time back so you can focus on building your company. Join over 9,000 global companies like Atlassian, Quora, and Factory who use Vanta to manage risk and prove security in real time. Get $1,000 off at vanta.com/Peter. That's VANTA.com/Peter for $1,000 off. Now back to the episode. If you start a day by like, I went into a room by myself and like, here's the vision, guys. Like, here's my vision. But it doesn't work.
Yeah, but also I think that as well as the actual insights, if we didn't have the right people in the room coming to present those insights, we would have had an incomplete picture. Because like you just said, studios, this thing, you use it every day. There are multiple verticals in there. There are multiple products in there. So we had to try and get a complete picture of the top problems. Then we can say, this subset are worth solving, right?
Yeah.
That was basically day one. Day one was all about the insights. Then we paused and then we sort of zoomed out. I'm giving you the full thing, so let me know how much detail you'd like to.
Go, keep going.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Then we went out and I had everyone sort of write a headline for, if we were the product you think we should be, what would be the headline for you, like down the line, that we solved this problem? And so everyone wrote their headlines, and this is just a quick way to get a pulse check of how aligned we are. Mind you, everyone's just heard the day of insights, right? So they've heard all the problems. So what's happening already is they're kind of solving in their minds. And what I tend to do when people are going through insights is just write the how might we. So you get a sort of stream of consciousness. But we went into the second day, it was all about like, okay, let's project to the future. What's the headline if we solved all of this that you would want, that you would be proud of? And then we took a step back from that, and I had literally a printout of a template that I used. It's like Once Upon a Time, and had everyone fill that in on paper. So none of this is on laptops or screens. So everybody wrote that out. And then we started discussing where were things converging. So there were a lot of themes that kept coming up. One that kept coming up that I still remember today was this connection. And I'm like, that's interesting because, a lot of people don't think that we care about connection, views or subs. And it's actually, there's a human connection. When you put something out there, there's another human taking time out of their day to listen to that thing and connect with it. And that's a human. Yes. I mean, you show up as a number, but it's a human. And what we hear over and over again from creators is when the going gets rough, the reason I started creating, when I question what I'm doing, or when it gets difficult, or I'm running out of ideas, I go back to my community, right? I go back to why I started doing this. So connection kept coming up. And another thing that kept coming up was this notion of telling your story, whatever story that is. And so very quickly, we arrived at this, expression meets connection. And that's kind of like the mission statement of the team, like expression meets connection. You can express yourself how you want, tell the story you want, regardless of your size, who you are, what device you're on. And you, on the other, when that story's told, you have connection. So you've got the insights, you've got the end state, you've got a vision statement. And then we didn't try to consolidate or converge at this point. Just let's write and discuss why we put what we put down. And then very quickly after that, we went into a sketch exercise. So let's say we solved all the problems. I literally had a template. It's an app store, like an Android, Google Play Store lockup with empty screens. So you know how you go on an app store?
Yeah, they hire the ladder crop stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. You have the panels, like screenshots. You can't put 20 in there. You can put like a handful. And I restricted that. I was like, you get 4, right? So let's say the dream app, we've solved all the problems you think we should solve. It's in the App Store. Draw the 4 images that would sort of speak to the things that you think are the marquee tentpole features. And again, on paper. And what you also start to do is you're building empathy, because I'm in the room. This is not my entire team, by the way. The team came in, but this is just me, my Eng partner, my UX, and my UXR partner. And so, by doing that, you're also creating empathy for what it is to translate a rough idea into a sketch. Like sketching humbles people quite a bit. And then, once we sketch that, again, certain themes started popping out. So I always say to my teams when they come to me and they ask me like, how do I do this? And I've even had one of my GPM on my team, he was like texting me in the middle of during their breaks for their vision session. And he's like, we're all coming up with some diverging things. When does it start? I'm like, just trust the process. It will emerge. I promise you. And, he has a vision now and the team's behind it and they're excited about it. But I'm like, you have to trust the process that these seeds will be sprinkled around and something will germinate. So as we start sketching again, you start to see some things that are converging. You start to see everyone had something more than just a list of comments in the comment section in studio, right? It's just a list of comments. It used to just be a list of comments, but everyone had something else that was like this community hub, which, as you've been following, has just gone live. And, everyone had multi-format as a core element. But here's the thing. No one was like, actually, we're just going to do components and patterns for partner teams. So this question of like, are we a platform or are we a product was very quickly answered. Right? No one was like, oh, in my app store, it's actually like, ship your product in 16 weeks to the YouTube internal product team. So that very quickly solved itself. And then after we did this sort of app store mock, we started having the conversations. And out of the conversations and grouping the problems that the how might we statements I talked about earlier, some themes started emerging. It was like, okay, there are a lot of how might we's that are around making the product more accessible. There are a lot of how might we's around making the product feel more connected. There are a lot of how might we's, and we use different words, right? But we ended up with like 6. We ended up whittling the 6 down to 5. And then we said, actually, these 5 feel like a Maslow's hierarchy of needs, which probably shouldn't be solving hyper-personalization. So it was this whole theme of like, we understand your channel. So we're not giving you just vanilla ideas or vanilla suggestions.
It's like more personalized,
Right. And this was before Gen AI was like sexy. Like Gen AI had not even like Chat GPT and Gemini and all of that. None of that was live at this point. But there was this notion of like personalization, different from customization. And as we looked at that hierarchy, like there is no point going and building a hyper-personalized product when I can't even upload a video on Studio Mobile.
Yeah, exactly.
This is literally, you probably know, this was a gap for some time. You couldn't upload a video, and so you had to go into the YouTube main app, or you had to go on desktop. So like, there's some fundamental primitives that are in the accessible bucket, right? Before we get to, the cherry on the top. And so that's how we ended up with this framework of pillars. I like to call them themes. My team always calls them pillars. I call them themes because they're not really pillars. Pillars, they hold something up. They're actually just themes of the ways we think about the product. And what's been interesting is every year when we write what we call 2 pages, which is strategic imperatives for the next year, my team a PM on my team owns one of those themes. So the connected 2-pager. And it's their job to actually go and gather all, work with all the different product teams to write a sort of a harmonized product strategy for that area that touches multiple products versus like shipping the org chart. So those themes have carried through. And then out of that,
the themes are like find your voice or find your voice and sustain your voice, or is that?
No, those are actually strategic pillars. The themes were accessible. So making sure anyone, whoever you are, whatever language, whatever device, whatever internet speed, you can create, you can express and connect, right? And then it was connected. Like, how do we make sure in everything we do, you're reminded about your community? And so things we do like data stories, which tell you, hey, here's your weekly recap. And which country do you think was that you've probably gotten these reports? So like, which country do you think had your top viewers this week?
Yeah, I love those things. Yeah, they're very motivating. Yeah,
exactly. It's all these little sprinkles that my eng partner calls it micro moments of happiness. So, these little micro moments of happiness. And then we said supported. So when something goes wrong, the yellow icon, because you will have those moments, right? How do we make sure you don't feel like you're in a bind or you're stuck? So you feel supported. And then we had empowered, and that's we have the right information, but it's not just like, here's all the data. It's actually actionable, and the insights are actionable, so you could do something about it. So those weekly reports are an example, but also the inspiration tab is another one where it's like, hey, here are 10 ideas for you, right? We can give you a feeling of empowerment by giving you the right, the right information or the right insights, and then finally personalized. So those are like the themes, the 5 themes.
I love it. Yeah. So just to kind of recap what you just described, like, so basically for first day, you try to understand what people think, try to empathize people. And then you had like a full day where you just like have people present their point of view and just try to understand and empathize. And then you kind of had everyone come up with their own one-line statement, or like the kind of the themes kind of emerge around expression-based connection, which by the way, I think is like really actually pretty insightful, because like you said, it's very easy to just be like, hey, I want to grow my views, or like I want to, make money on YouTube. But actually, for me personally, it's like the random nice comments that I get that keeps me going. So that's actually really good insight. Yeah,
exactly. And I think sometimes some creators forget that, and it becomes about the business and the deals and the whatever. And that's, you ask them, I've interviewed hundreds of creators now and sat in UXR sessions, and we ask this question, why did you start? Almost 99% of the time, it's like, I had a story to tell, and I thought there were other people who were interested in my topic, or I had a life experience and I thought there'd be other people that could connect with that life experience. And it's something around, or I was passionate about something and I wanted to share it with the world, and why do you keep going? It's always the community. You hear words like, it's like they're like my best friends. My community are like my best friends. My community are like, you hear all these things. So community is at the heart of it, really.
And I love how like collaborative this process is. And also like the whole versus product thing, like I think I'm a terrible platform PM, because like I cannot just build a platform and be like, hey, you guys come build my platform. Like I need to have opinions about what the end user wants. Like
that actually is my philosophy. I actually don't think these are all ABisms. I think a platform PM needs to be an order of magnitude stronger than just a regular PM. Because you have to be able to quickly empathize with my end customer's needs, which are ultimately the same customer. Right? So we all work for, these big companies, we all work on different parts of the product, but ultimately it's one customer at the end with like nuanced needs. So you're just looking at segments of problems. So I always say a platform PM needs to actually be an order of magnitude, stronger in product sense, because now I have to understand, like, for example, PMs on my team, we support 40 partners, like 40 product teams, right?
Yeah.
And so every team thinks my thing, as it should be, is like the most important thing that needs to ship tomorrow, right? It's the P0. I need this capability or like the world will stop. And it's so important that as a PM, a platform PM, you ideally should be able to see around the corner and almost predict where the puck is going, so you can build for that reality. So before waiting for teams, we started talking a lot about, if every team is going to go build Gen AI stuff and they're all going to need context of the creator, right? So it's not just a vanilla, if I go in Gemini and type a question, it should know, oh, this is Peter's channel and whatnot. We probably should think about a scalable way to do that so that everyone has the same source of truth in a way. Otherwise, everyone is calling the same data each time and saying, give me this, give me views, give me whatever, package it, UR it, and sending a prompt, right? But actually, if you can boilerplate that part, then you have all these features sort of not completely diametrically opposed from each other. And that was something that the PM that was thinking of that on Lifecycle already started thinking of, hey, what's the essence of the channel? And how do we think about, how do we think about that so that we can support all these teams that are going to need the essence of the channel?
Yeah, like some sort of shared context on the creator.
Right?
Context.
Like
LMC context.
Yes. Otherwise, everyone is pre-context prompting, and that's more TPUs, that's another turn, that's, all the things. So,
You gotta be like I don't know who's managing the studio or homepage, but like you gotta be like, you almost have to understand the customer, the creator better than like the individual product PMs, because like you pull everything together, right? Otherwise, it may be like a tragedy of a commons day situation. We just like have a bunch of stuff there.
And this was the crux actually that ended up like deciding it was an analogy we use is that let's say there are 4 teams that come and say, so we had actually, true story. We had 4 teams, one team that was doing TV shows, another team playlists, another team doing podcasts, and podcasts are usually shows, right? As part of a playlist. And then you had courses, okay? All 4 teams, when they mocked up their products, they look completely different. Everyone is unique. We're podcast shows or we're movies, and we're like, wait, hold on a second. The PM on my team who drove that, she's like, well I'm going to push back because I can build a scalable collection framework that you can all use. Yes, they're going to be different things, but ultimately it's a collection of videos, right? It's a collection of videos. So, and then of course every team pushes back because you need to go a little bit slower to solve it in a way where it works for everyone's nuanced use cases and it's flexible enough. And with platforms, you're always trading off relevance and consistency. Right? Mm-hmm. And so every PM is going to be like, you're slowing me down, just get out of my way. But actually, by doing it, true story, as they should, but by doing it the way we did and slowing them down just a little bit, they've all gotten benefits for free as for example, playlist analytics, podcast analytics, right? Versus the video analytics, you now have analytics at the collection level. So these are the kind of things that, my team had to think about, like round the corner. So that tomorrow, if another team comes and says, we want to do, I don't know, the courses example was actually the example. They were like, oh, we want to do courses. Like, oh, we actually have this thing already for you that's been used by podcasts and movies and playlists.
And then they can just use that as opposed to build it from scratch. Right? You can just use the component.
Exactly.
I think a very underrated part of this whole vision strategy thing is principles for a product. And it will help you potentially push back on other teams, just make the right decisions. I'm curious if Studio has any principles.
I think the number one principle that we have is we build, we all build for creators first, right?
Okay.
If it's good for creators, it's good for YouTube. That's always been the YouTube, the partnership, right? And creators are the lifeblood of YouTube. So that's number one. So a lot of the time when it comes down to it, you can come back to the creator and say, but hold on a second, show me your UXR. Right? Why are we building this thing or what, so that I think that's a very big one. I think a couple of other ones that we had, for example, a place where everyone can tell a story, whatever story that is. We're not a place where only a certain kind of stories can be told, which means, especially when it comes to formats, our product should work well for a live creator who does only live, a creator who does only shorts, a creator who does only long form, a creator who does 5-minute long form, right? But also a creator who tries to do all of them. And this is just this notion of equity. And we weren't always that way, right? It used to be that in a lot of parts of the product, like the content hub, it would default to the long form tabs. Exactly. So a creator who only posts shorts would first land on this empty screen and then go to the next tab. And we're like, actually, let's just build this equitable framework so that now you have the shelves and you just have you've probably seen that in your mobile studio. You have the shelves and it's like VOD, shorts, live, and you can see everything. And creators like, oh, actually made me remember I haven't looked at shorts in a very long time because I posted one short and forgot about it. So that was another principle. But a lot of these principles actually emerged from the discussions we had on the 3rd day. So day 1 was insights. Day 2 was visioning. Day 3 was starting to distill, let's bring it all together, right? And day 4 was when we actually locked in the strategic imperatives and the big rock products that would, what are the 3, 4, 5 products that would make this strategic imperative come to life? We had to have these sort of back and forths. Here we have a platform cleanup we need to do. We have these sorts of asks. Does that mean we're not doing them? And we had to have these very tough conversations because strategy ultimately is saying no to a lot of things and saying yes to some of things, right?
What were the 3 or 4 projects you guys landed on day 3? Yeah, what were the strategic products or the main initiatives that you guys landed on?
You talked about finding your voice, refine your voice, sustain your voice. Let's talk about that now. So we sort of said, okay, we've been building for the big creator who has long form for a very long time, right? And we're the platform where people come when they're like, I am serious about making, a business out of this and making, videos. And what started to happen was the perceived perception for the barrier to entry was higher and higher. So there was this assumption that you go everywhere else to have fun, or you go everywhere else to go try it out. And when you're serious, you come to YouTube. And we're like, come on, we started with cat videos. So that's the perception, but that is not that's never been the intention of the platform. So we said, okay, we're going to make a very intentional pivot and still focus on our key products like thumbnail AB, which we shipped for sort of large creators that are asking for these. Like for a lot of creators, thumbnail AB won't even get to power because you don't have enough views. So we'll give you like a third thumbnail. You don't have enough of a sample size. And so we were like, what would it look like if we built for the creator who's making like their first video? What does the product look like? And so some of the tentpole things that came out and that's what we call find your voice. This is that stage where you are posting, it looks like my channel. I post cooking videos one day, travel videos another day. I DJ the other day. Like I'm just sharing my life. And for a lot of people, that's going to be it. It's like I have a voice, I'm finding it, and I will spend most of my life trying lots of things, and that's okay. But for some people, a subset of those people, they're trying to lock in and find a voice. For many people, it's going to be participation, which is perfectly fine. So it's okay, what does the product look like for that creator? And there were a lot of things. That creator is mostly in the YouTube app, not Studio. They're not going to download a second app. They're in the YouTube app. And they're going to upload a video there. So we're like, well, we need a mini version of Studio. So one of the tentpole products was Studio Mini, which is like a mini version of Studio in the main app. We call it the main app. The YouTube app's called the main app internally. And in that app, we will give you basic analytics. We will give you, basic comment management, like just enough for you to manage your content. Yeah. Get started, manage your content without requiring you to download another app. So that was one of the tentpole things for Find Your Voice. But when you get into sort of refine your voice, this is sort of, now I know my thing is cooking videos. I'm still trying to figure it out and refine it and get to a scalable place. But I know my thing is cooking videos, or I know my thing is chess moves. And so now we need to help you. You want to go deeper. You want to maybe understand who in my audience, who in my community is coming back, who's returning, my returning viewers versus new viewers. What's the retention curve looking like? We wanted to make sure that when you download Studio Mobile, which is what most people do, if you don't have a full-on laptop, you can access all, most of YTA. You have parity. So for a long time, you wouldn't have all the YouTube analytics that were on the web on mobile. So we brought a lot of that to mobile. We wanted you to be able to, go a little bit deeper with this is the thing I talked about earlier, go a bit deeper in understanding your different formats of content. So Content Hub and this multi-format equitable Content Hub was one of the tentpole products for Refine Your Voice. And then the other tentpole product was the Community Hub, which just launched. So those were the two marquee products, in addition to parody and a lot more, Gen AI inspiration. And then you have the sustain. I'm there, I've made it, I just don't want to burn out. I want to do this in a sustainable way. And the surprising thing is you find for a lot of those creators, they have the same needs as sometimes small creators. They need the micro moments of happiness. They need those little, wins as well. And so with that, a lot of what we're also doing is bringing these magical things like the congrats, you got to 50, and making it a little bit more. We added a few more steps, a few more sort of celebratory steps on the web, but also, doubling down on things like the inspiration tab.
Yeah, I think those little moments really matter. Like it makes me feel like I think I got a moment saying like I got to 10,000 views or something, which is probably peanuts. But like it definitely mattered to keep me going. Yeah.
Exactly. And that is what, it's like life. You'll have these big moments, you can have a wedding and you will graduate, but there are all these small things along the way. Like the first time you don't burn the pizza, in the oven, or, the first time the time you got your first email, like my at Hotmail once upon a time, and then my first Gmail, these little moments, as well as the likes you get from friends. So we all have these micro moments as well as the tentpole moments.
Yes. It's kind of it has to be like there's no intrinsic motivation to do this. Like otherwise, if you just look at views, like you can your emotions can go up and down every week depending on how many user behaviors get. It's like not sustainable. Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's talk about something like difficult, like you had to make some, like one thing that, I also work on like the equivalent of YouTube studio for Roblox, right? And like one debate we're always having, and I think you talk about this a little bit, is just like between the large and the small creators, like they just want they kind of want different things. They want completely different views of how things work. Like the large ones just want like a bunch of analytics, and the small ones want motivation. I can see your point is that the large ones also want more motivation.
That's actually my point. And I think we sometimes forget that. The large ones also want motivation. It might look different. Like the moments might be different, but they also want them. They also want to set goals. Small creators like, hey, I want to get to my first $100. Big creators like, hey, I want to cross 1 million. I mean, but same goal, right? And it's like, I always, honestly, life has all the answers. We just need to look at it. It's no different. Ultimately, we're building products for humans. Everybody has New Year's resolutions and steps to take and weight to lose and books to read. Same. It's the same.
Do you encourage your, it sounds like you talk to creators all the time. Do you encourage your team to do what you're doing, which is like try to do a channel? It's like really trying to experience for pain.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Actually, one of the things I think a lot of PMs, especially as you go into bigger organizations, tend to forget to do is to be as hungry about the product as the customer they're building for. And that's something, I don't know how you build empathy for somebody using the product if you don't go through the same experience and see the same issues and see the same problems and pain points. So absolutely. Yeah. To varying levels of success. Like I encourage, but not everyone is at the same level.
It's hard to like grow a child.
And that's exactly, some people will be like, oh, but I feel like, putting myself out there. I'm like, well, welcome to being a creator, putting yourself out there. So maybe put a version of yourself that you're comfortable putting out there. Maybe your thing is your dog. Just record your dog doing silly shit all the time.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? That's the thing as big companies, like you can be a amazing cross-functional collaborator, but like if you don't dedicate like at least some portion of time to actually experience the customer pain yourself, you could just lose touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about like another topic. So, you worked at a lot of great companies, YouTube, Uber, Netflix. You're also on the board of Lego, I believe, right? And we talk about vision a lot. I'm curious if you have like a personal vision statement or like a personal purpose.
I do.
Yes.
I have a personal purpose. The vision statement actually is going through an iteration right now.
Okay.
And so, I'll talk more about the purpose and the vision. My purpose is to empower and inspire people through stories. It's literally my life force. And even though when I look back, it's like, oh, there's always been this connective like thread. And I think, the more and more I kind of chip away at this thing, it gets clearer and clearer. Mm-hmm. It's not like as I was going to each of my jobs, I was like, oh, I'm a story, I want to get closer to stories. Because hindsight is always 20/20, right? But one thing I've noticed is with me, one of my proudest moments is publishing a book on Nigerian photography. And I remember how that started. It was like a small thing. It turned into a 4-year project. One of my current proud moment is I just made a short film. Yep, I did. And the trailer is on YouTube, but I made a film and, it wasn't me with a camera. I directed the film, but I wrote the script. I did the screenplay. I, did the casting, I did all these things. And I had to work with, director, DOP, like cinematographer, editor, sound designer. So it gave me also a lot of empathy for high quality production and what that takes, right? Or when I look at some, creators like Marcus Brownlee or, who have a lot more polished content, it's impressive. Yeah.
What made you want to make a film? Like, cause you could just like, YouTube job all day. Yeah.
One of the beautiful things of YouTube is you get to like meet all these great people. So I was at the India Creator Summit and we had Mr. Perfect, as they call him, who is basically, this amazing Bollywood star. And we had him over and he said something that really struck me. And it was basically when I meet people and they have a story to tell, I know that they're going to end up making that film. And so his name is Amir Khan, amazing Bollywood star. But people call him Mr. Perfect because he's the perfectionist. And that stuck with me. It's like people, who have a story to tell are bound to make a great film. They will tell it. They will do everything to tell it. And I think that was it for me. I had a story to tell. It's been sitting with me for 4 years. I thought it was going to be a book. And then I ended up at Netflix and I was like, oh, actually, this is another form factor I haven't played with. And that got me curious. And I sat on it and I was like, wait, do I, do a big budget production? But I, have a job, I have time for this. And then came to YouTube and I was like, actually, I could do this. And I shot the film, shot it in 5 days, took a week off work. And I watched a ton of YouTube videos, how to write a script. Danny Garrett, he does a lot of documentary, amazing stuff on YouTube. I binged every BTS video of that guy, of just like it was amazing. It was amazing. And then that gave me energy. So when I came to work, I'm even more energized, right? So I actually fundamentally believe in these things we do that give us empathy for the product, but also feed our soul, because you then put that energy into what you're building, that passion, that energy. Yeah.
I love that. I love seeing leaders who actually encourage people to actually pursue their personal passions and like do it themselves. I mean, speaking of telling stories, like, let's talk about this topic real quick. Like a lot of people, if you go to LinkedIn, their story is like, I'm a director at YouTube and I was Netflix. Yeah. That's my story.
The one that's not very, and this is not paid. It's when people have in the LinkedIn, it's like, I'm something and it's X this. I'm like, imagine if we went through life and I was like, Ebi, X of like all the people I dated. I'm like, speak about the person you're with now. And then maybe there's a story will emerge and you could talk about the remaining X's. I just find it interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of like a little bit of a toxic behavior, right? Like, and it's also like, it also affects your psyche of like, all right, I think you become a director or something. Like I need to go to work with you to make it. So do you have any advice for folks to actually be defined by their own personal stories as opposed to like this kind of job title stuff? Or
so this is going to rattle a few people, but I'm a big believer in if no one hates it, no one truly loves it. So I like polarizing reactions because it tells me I hit a nerve. I always say to people, let's say I took away Google and I took away PM, director of product, senior PM. Who are you? Yeah. I know you don't need to answer, but like, I'm not putting you on the spot, by the way. Don't treat you. But the amount of people who just have a blank stare, it's like, who are you? Like some people it's a parent, a mom, a dad. Some people it's I'm a partner. What are, if you took away those things, you keep chipping away at them, right? What's the essence? What's left? And so for me, I'm a storyteller. That's the thing I want to be known for. That's who I am. I'm a storyteller. I'm a lover of beautiful things in the world. Like I collect beautiful things. I collect flyers. I collect whatever. That's who I am. Yeah. That's what I want you to remember of me. Many people might add other things like, oh, Ebi knows how to do vision. So Ebi, is a tennis player, or Ebi, like whatever, like, quick learner. But what is that? And it's so important that you have a complete story because the company hired you for that complete story. The company hired the person, right? Once upon a time. And I think what then happens, which is, a little bit, I don't want to call it, but it rattles a lot of people, is you create a different relationship to the company where you're not expecting all of your fulfillment to come from a company. And that's not fair on any company because company is not your whole life. And so when you have a full life and that life is beyond just the thing you do, the job title, it's actually the thing, the impact you leave on the world is really the thing, as well as how you show up in the world, then I actually think you bring a lot more energy into the work you're doing, a lot more passion, a lot more meaning, a lot more intent, right? Because there's like balance.
Wow, that's an amazing point. And I think that's like really, I think everyone in Silicon Valley needs to hear this, right? Because because no one can take the fact away from you that you're a storyteller, right? Like someone can take away my job from me or something, but like no one can take that away from you. Yeah. And
also it makes me, I'm like, okay, what does storytelling look like within the construct of Google? And so I bring that to the visions that I set. I bring that to, when we told the story of find your voice, sustain your voice, we told the story of Sophia. And actually what I wrote was it's a play on user story, but it's not as it's not the user story. Like as a user, I actually write a user story. Meet Sophia. She's 19. She She woke up in the morning and on her phone, she gets a notification says, congrats. She said, like I literally write a story without any screens. And that is how I bring the vision to life. And so you're in the shoes and the mind of Sophia now, like, oh, what are her fears? What are her needs? What are her goals? And then I wrote that story all the way to the end. So storytelling, but in the context of Google, I brought the thing I love to the work I love doing. And now I feel like that's more magical. So yeah.
Yeah, storytelling at Google, storytelling, like with my kids, like my toddler to me. I'll tell the story, yeah.
You talked about Lego. In my Lego interview, this is actually something I brought up. Mm-hmm. Lego's mission is empowering the, kids, especially through play or people through play, or a lot of adults, Lego fans. And for me, when I was in my interviews, I remember saying, I was like, for me, what I love about Lego is in every box, there's a story. You're either building a story that's been told already or you're creating your own, but you are telling a story. And that's like your creative juices going. So for me, when I think about it, like there's a box set of Notre Dame and there's a story in there. It's like this thing in Paris or the box set of the Titanic. It's a story. You're building a story. And so there's this connective thread. And now at a place in my life where I'm looking for things that align with that purpose. I wasn't there when I started my career. I was just moving through and bringing storytelling into it. But now it's, okay, actually, I want to look for alignment where it exists. With that.
Everyone should do the same thing. Yeah. Okay, all right. Well, let's close on this. Like, can you briefly share what your film is about and what people can watch?
Oh, absolutely. The film is a celebration of West African artistry. And I've been very inspired by what I've been seeing coming out of Korea, where the content is this celebration of Korean culture and it's made for Koreans. And we all watch it. We watch it and we're like, I now know what, fermented kimchi is, because I watched all these shows and I understand the culture by connecting through that. So I had a similar sort of, passion for, a lot of West Africans don't know how much pride and heritage lies in these artistic practices that we have. And a lot of them are just stories that are told, right? And I was starting to get a little bit worried that, over a couple of generations, those stories might go away. And so the first film is following the life of a drummer who's making what we call a talking drum. And it's a drum that literally, we say it speaks because you can sort of squeeze it and it moves the membrane. And funnily enough, a similar drum exists in Korea, by the way. I feel like there's some interesting connection there. And it's this Yoruba Nigerian drum. But we follow the story of him making the drum. But I think the most beautiful thing, this I'll leave you with, is when I was writing the story, I wrote the story around this one person who's like, he's the maker of the drum. And what it taught me as I started actually casting the individuals to make the drum was, something that kept coming back was, we don't do that. There is no one man or woman who makes a drum. It's not possible. And I was like, oh, but actually, isn't that true for everything? Is there anything where you can say, this thing, I made it by myself? Like there's somebody who cut the raw materials. There's someone who drove it to the store. There's somebody who came up with the design. Like everything we do is in community. And so what I ended up, being able, focusing on capturing in this making of the drum is this communing around a drum, but all these individuals, the tannery, the woodcutter, the maker, that come together to make this drum. Wow. And so that's what the film about. It's a short film. It's 15 minutes, a docufilm. And the trailer is on YouTube. And the other handle is Zolo Studios. So that's separate.
Well, what's the title of the film? You can search for it.
It's called Dune, but you might need to put it in your show notes. Literally means sweet sound in Europe. Dun dun. D-U-N, D-U-N. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna watch it after this.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah.
I'll send you a link. Like and subscribe.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I mean, thanks so much for this is an awesome conversation. I kind of wish we started with the purpose in the first place, but this is awesome conversation. I learned so much. Yeah.
You can do that thing creators do where they edit the end at the beginning, you know?
Yeah. I'll do that.
Get your 15 seconds. Thank you so much for having me.
Cool. All right, Ebi. Thanks so much. Yeah.